back to our interview series. My name is Terra Christoff, and I am committed to helping you create your best business year yet. And I'm also partnering today with Jessie Johnson for an amazing interview, which I am so excited about. What I love about Jessie is she has this incredible background. She went from being a school teacher in New York City to creating a 7-figure business in under 2 years. So you are going to learn so much from her today, especially around sales as a spiritual practice. But I would love to open with just welcoming you, Jessie, and really hearing more of your amazing story. Warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Terra. I'm so delighted to be here. You have no idea. I'm so grateful and excited to know you in this way.
Woohoo!
So story. There are so many stories. The best one I think for today is that childhood gave me the value of connection, wanting to be with humans and feel deeply with those humans. Adolescence into early adulthood gave me the value of service and contributing, which is what led me to teach high school math in New York City public schools and work to dismantle the cycle of poverty. And to be honest, that work and just growing into adulthood and integrating spiritual life more and more as I grew led me to value and long for impact. So connection, service, and impact are I just had a new thought of the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, and the bones of my business. There are these fundamental through lines that feed and nourish and also raise the standard for me in all areas of my life through the business. And I'm so grateful. You and I were talking about this just a moment before we started recording, but to have the opportunity to experience a career through my business that allows me to cultivate such an unapologetic and uncompromising realization of that vision and of those values. I honestly don't think there's any other career out there that could do that for me. So I'm super grateful to have found this, super grateful to have found my first coach, who's really the reason that I took this path. And of course, all the teachers and mentors that have helped me both before and since. The work that I do is the best work that I could possibly do. And I'm grateful every day.
Beautiful. I just love your passion and your clarity around what really are the pillars of the DNA or the whatever metaphor you want to use of your work. That's really beautiful. And I have to say, I imagine that there are women watching this interview and they're like, okay, but what was that journey like of actually saying yes to your destiny? I know that you mentioned having a coach and support people, and I think that's so vital, but could you speak into a little bit of maybe what was the biggest what was the shift in thinking that allowed you to step out of teacher and into I'm going to be a millionaire business owner?
It's a great question, and there are lots of moments that I could use to illustrate this story, but I do think that there's kind of two critical ones. Oh, this is really fun. So one specific moment, but also a kind of category that I would name is contrast. So I had been working in New York City public schools for 12 years. I was great at what I did. I knew that. in the beginning of my career, there were lots of things that didn't go well. And always I was aware that those things that weren't going well were probably my fault. Like I just didn't know enough, or I hadn't planned well enough, or whatever. Like there was some growth edge that was in me. Mm-hmm. After 12 years of doing it, that was still true, but I was kind of more like, that's not the primary issue anymore. There's something else that's preventing all of this phenomenal education and passion from having that impact, that lasting systemic impact, not just on one kid or one teacher, but on the way that education happens, the way that school happens. And I just got frustrated. I felt like I was beating all parts of myself against brick walls, left and right, every day. And that the pain and frustration of that created urgency. And it started like a slow burn. And then gradually I was just like, this fucking sucks and I want more. Mm-hmm. And that opened up contrast. I think that's the value of contrast in our lives, is that it helps us wake up to the more that we are missing. Mm-hmm. Because we don't care that much about it when things are going well, right? So it's when things start to really like get fussy and not work that we really get like, oh, like there's more. Okay, so yes. that was one moment. And then I looked for probably a year. I was on the hunt for like, what's next? Like, what else could I do with this tremendous resource that I have now created in this body? Because I know so much. I'm so good at so many things. There's got to be some place that all of this good stuff can be of service. And then I think that the other kind of critical point was meeting or reconnecting really with the woman who became my first coach. Her name is Marla Mattinson, and she and I were math teachers together like a decade ago, more now. And so I met her at a very different time in both of our lives. And we were friends, but we lived on opposite sides of the country. We just kind of followed each other on social media. And this was 4+ years ago now. So social media was a thing then, but not what it is now. So it was light social media. We followed each other. And I saw her post something about life coaching. And I, at the time, thought that, to be honest, I just didn't think about life coaching at all. But when I thought about it, I thought it was silly or fluff or not a real job. Like I didn't know anyone who was doing that I really respected or was inspired by. So I hadn't considered that. But when I saw that she was talking about it, I was like, hang on a second, like Marla would not do this if it weren't something real. So like, what is it? And so I called her to find out. And after literally 3 minutes of conversation, was just cracked open. It was like, oh, fuck, this is what everything has been guiding me toward. This is what everything in my life, from my parents to their, like the trauma that I suffered and all the heartbreak that I had, to all the different work that I did, from being an artist to being a math teacher, all of it had prepared me for this business, this career, this work, this service. And I just knew. And so then it was just a matter of filling in the blanks. And to be honest, I never really considered, I was terrified, but it's not like I was like, oh, now that I know that, let me go hunt for the right coach. Like it was clear that Marla came into my life at that point for a reason. And so after a little fussing, I hired her, and she taught me how to build a business, how to do sales, how to use my business to grow and hold myself to a higher standard. And I mean, we finished our work together a little over a year ago, but I will literally my life has forever been changed because of her. I'm so grateful. I could never have done any of what I did on my own. I needed that hand holding. I think most people need that hand holding. I think it's a rare alien who can go from the mindset and lifestyle of a math teacher or whatever it is that's true for them to a 7-figure CEO in such a short period of time without the guidance of a mentor. So I believe deeply in mentorship. I always have mentors in my life and assume that I always will, because there's always stuff we don't know. There's always stuff we can't see. So, and I'm a devotee of the truth. I'm a devotee of that whatever that edge is that I haven't yet uncovered for myself.
I love everything about what you're sharing, and I resonate with it. I'm a big believer in mentors, and I'm a big believer in going to whatever that next edge is for me and saying like, ooh, this is kind of terrifying or scary. Guess there's a transformation waiting
Yeah.
to be had, and actually getting excited about that. And I love the way you're sharing about this. And I know that one of your biggest teachings in the work that you do is around sales as a spiritual practice. I'm wondering if you can share more about what that means to you.
There are a couple things. One is partly it's a very personal practice. Like I was very spiritual. I went to India 3 times in 1 year in 2010 or 11. I can't quite remember. And I mean, spirituality was the most important thing to me, right? That was actually part of what I wanted in my, whatever my new career was. When I was envisioning that, was more integration of that spiritual part of my life and the professional part of my life. And so I knew that, but what I did not expect is that when I started doing sales conversations, that it would reveal to me as much or more as my meditation practice. So for me, it was like, I mean, just to be totally honest with you, what I learned very early on about myself was that I had a tremendous capacity for manipulation and codependency, because I was very attached to people liking me and having good feelings toward me and approving of my choices and decisions. And I did not know that before I started doing sales. And I was very, I mean, it's hard to measure spiritual advancement, but I would have said that I was pretty advanced. Like I'd done a lot of work on myself at that point. And so it was kind of a shocker to do this thing. I knew it would make me uncomfortable, but I did not expect it to be spiritually transformative. But it was like, I don't want to be, like, on a conscious level, I don't want to be manipulative. I don't want to be codependent. And it was very uncomfortable, but also really inspiring to see how it was showing up in my not wanting to hear no. So that was the first seed. It was just very personal. I wasn't teaching sales at that point. I was just doing them. As I continued, that process of evolution continued. It still continues. I still use sales as a mirror to help me see what I can't see and call me to a higher standard of service, my full attention on the person in front of me, presence. And really, it's like my experience is that sales is, at its highest vibration anyway, it is a integration meditation. Right? You got your eyes open, you're in an interaction, but a really powerful salesperson, especially in a transformational context, is like just channeling. They're just meditating the whole time. So to be able to do that, you know, when I was teaching high school, I was meditating every day, and I love my meditation. It was like bliss when I was closing my eyes and retreating from the world, and then the rest of my life, which was a fucking shit show, you know? As soon as I started this work, the sales sort of started to shift that like non-overlapping space into one. And that's not to say that I'm in constant meditation. I'm not. That is a level of enlightenment that I haven't achieved. But sales is the thing that took me to that next level of spiritual maturity. And so when I teach sales, that's how I teach it. Because the interesting thing is that when, particularly my clients who are spiritual teachers and healers and coaches, when they do sales like that, then that's when the sales also work, right? They're fun, they feel aligned, they actually are genuinely in service to the person that they're talking to. The person that they're talking to is truly liberated to say yes or no. It's like, that's actually the sweet spot for really powerful sales anyway. And so teaching sales as a personal spiritual practice is also a way of teaching sales mastery in general.
Wow, I love everything that you are sharing about how your spirituality infuses your your spiritual path with sales. I mean, you and I both have shared, you know, like I just got back from India. I know you're leading a pilgrimage there soon, and it's amazing to have an opportunity to bring spirituality into our business. And let me know if I'm getting this right. I mean, are you saying that you feel like your spirituality plays a role, contributes to your success as someone who's bringing in millions of dollars?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no, I mean, and this is so interesting because I don't think I realized this until more recently, like in the last year and a half, something like that. I really started to understand how much my spiritual work had prepared me for this. It's funny now that I'm saying that, I hear that I actually knew that at some level, but it was like, I knew how to look at the truth even when it was uncomfortable. I knew how to take personal responsibility. I knew that I was responsible for my own experience, feelings, thoughts. That doesn't mean that I was masterful all the time, but I knew that I was like, at least theoretically, that was possible. And I knew enough of these principles of exponential growth. You know, one of the teachings that comes from the Bhagavad Gita is that we're living in this world of illusion. And it's like a river trying to cut through or cross the illusion. And there's this passage in the Bhagavad Gita that talks about that the river of illusion is impossible to cross until you basically devote your life to Krishna. That's what the Bhagavad Gita says. But my interpretation of that is until you step into alignment, step into service, recognize that you are not just this physical body, and that really we're here for something quite deep that has very little to do with the body. It's the vehicle, but it's not the thing itself. And in the Bhagavad Gita, that passage, it's like as soon as you recognize truth, let's just keep it really general. As soon as you recognize truth, the river of Maya that's so difficult to cross vanishes. There's nothing to cross. So my lens on exponential growth is that it's about awareness. And when the awareness shifts, could be a small shift, the possibilities that we have access to are immediately and instantaneously radically different, right? So the consciousness of me as a math teacher, I just couldn't even see. It never even occurred to me that I would have a business. I didn't even sell Girl Scout cookies when I was growing up. Like I was not entrepreneurial in my opinion, in my mind. So it never crossed my mind. So, you know, I do this because I feel like this was where I was visioning. I had a big vision, but it was inside this little, relatively small box. And there was nothing wrong with my vision. There was nothing wrong with my capacity to dream. But the container that I was dreaming inside of wasn't working. And when I shifted the container, just by being around Marla and changing my sense of what's possible, the same mechanism that was working here was working here. But the capacity to expand that vision was so different. And my willingness to go, my willingness to change, I think had a tremendous amount to do with my spiritual background. That's actually why we take people to India now, because my husband and I co-lead that program together. And we just realized he was a monk for almost 8 years.
Oh,
so
wow.
he had his own version of spiritual immersion. And me, I was much more in the world than he was during that time. But, you know, I spent weeks and weeks in India during that first year and many times since. So it's like that immersive spiritual work set the stage for this growth. And so we just are really committed to making sure that every one of our clients has that kind of opportunity. And then we do a mastermind with them for the whole year. So it's not just
Right.
the spiritual work, but we're talking about business, we're talking about money throughout the whole process and helping them integrate that into their day-to-day.
That is so powerful. I love what you did when you kind of went from here and talked about that expansive process, that opening that happened for you. And given that the theme for this event is around creating your best business year yet, I'm wondering if you can share your wisdom on what you really believe will help women step into, there might be some men watching this series too, but mostly women, step into their best business year yet, while also honoring their feminine rhythms, because no one I know wants to do it in a way that involves hustling or masculine models that don't feel aligned. So
I'm going to draw you a picture.
Awesome.
I feel like that'll be the best way to illustrate this. So I've been using this tool for a really long time in my business, and the name that I've been giving it has not been working. So I recently tried renaming it to, oh no, I forgot the name. The Duality Breaking Machine. It's just a 2x2 box.
Yes.
But I'm going to use the example that you gave because this comes up all the time. So it's like flow. I heard you say flow and structure. Maybe there's a little bit more judgment in those words, but, and then success, and I'll say struggle. So what I see often, and I'm just using this as one example, you can use this 2x2 in so many contexts. Like really anytime someone feels like they have to choose between two shitty choices, do this. It's like there's always more than those two choices. So yeah. Most of the time, actually there's a few different ways that this could look, but what you just said was that women often feel like in order to find success, they have to step into a masculine structure that actually isn't aligned to how they want to show up or how they want to live their lives. But if they choose flow, that somehow that's going to limit their success or even cause struggle. And the point of the 2x2 is to help separate, like these are two separate decisions. Mm-hmm. You every moment get to choose success or struggle, or maybe you want to call this ease or struggle, right? You can play with the language. Mm-hmm. And I actually really like this language because for me, there's time, like these work together. I want some of both. I'm not interested in just being like, whatever, like I would not be here with you if I wasn't interested in structure, because I wouldn't have a calendar and I wouldn't have booked the time, you know? Structure serves me, but maybe there's like a level of like, for me, this is rigid, inflexible, stuck, right? Maybe I'm not so interested in this. Frankly, I'm not really interested in struggle. But I am interested in actually both of these boxes, and I'm interested in the spectrum between and how they work together, and making that choice conscious is very empowering. Now, easy to say, quite a different thing to embody. What I teach about this is that you can't do anything without the awareness. So the awareness has to come first, and it's insufficient if we stop there. And this is actually a challenge of a lot of really, really brilliant spiritual people. We get hooked on awareness. We know how powerful it is. In a meditation context, you can kind of stop there. Like that's enough. The awareness is enough. But if you're building a business, you got to put it into practice. And so it's not difficult to do that. It just requires, it's almost like you give yourself a structural intervention to when you have a realization or you have an insight or you clarify your desire, that you immediately articulate for yourself, okay, but now what is this going to look like? How am I going to put this into practice? What's going to make it hard for me? What's going to distract me from it? Or what's going to derail me? Like, I know that I want this, but I sometimes choose this. So like, why is that? What's gonna tempt me to go back to this rigid struggle place? And again, cultivating awareness around that and making structural interventions, I would say, to transform that.
That's powerful.
Frankly, Tara, the other thing is like anyone that's watching this should probably be considering hiring you or someone that you're interviewing. Like, do not underestimate the power of very serious mentorship from people who know what the hell they're doing. It exponentially transformed what I was able to do. And anyone that's tuning in, there's something more that wants to happen. You wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I so agree. I mean, I'm always invested in at least one coach, often more, and lots of transformational work, because I know there's always just a next level that we can step into. And I know we can also only go as far as our beliefs will take us. So we got to be doing work with the beliefs. We got to be doing work with the implementation. We got to be doing work around, the vision piece of what we really want to create. And I think the support of a mentor who's been there, it's really priceless, because
I agree.
we could have done it by now. There's certain things.
Would have. Totally. Totally. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing to connect with you. And I know you have a very special free gift to share. Tell us more about it.
I'm actually really excited about this, because we've been really like honing in and doing research, like what's going to actually be the easiest, best thing. Like I'm excited about this. So the thing that I really want to share with your folks is this ebook that we created based on some training that I did, got a lot of feedback on, and then reiterated. And it's all about sales, the 5 challenges that entrepreneurs face and how to move through them. And it puts into concrete language a lot of the more, like we kind of stayed on the big strokes, you could say, of this concept, but the ebook goes into the details. And I think it's one of the best pieces of content that I've ever created. It's been revolutionary for people, even who consider themselves really good at sales. So I'm really excited to give that to your people. And of course, if there's anything else that we can do to help, we've got no shortage of resources. So follow us on YouTube, Instagram, any of the social platforms. We're doing regular content to support people specifically around sales and spiritual life and how to integrate them.
I love it, Jessie. This has been so enlivening, and I feel like I had a bit of a paradigm shift. I'm like, okay, yeah, sales, spiritual practice. And it is so true. Like there's so much opportunity, even in an enrollment conversation, to really see where you hold yourself back, where you want to look good, all the places that you're not fully owning your self-expression. I mean, the layers are deep. So I so appreciate, this topic is incredibly important, because as we know, if you want to have a successful business, you really can't have it without being powerful in sales. And I know if you're here, you don't want to do it in an icky, manipulative way. So I'm sure it's going to resonate with you, the idea of really bringing all of your spirituality to those conversations, and especially your presence. I really feel your presence, Jessie, and I appreciate that.
Thank you for that reflection, Terra.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this amazing interview. And if you're watching this, pick up this free gift. That sounds like an amazing opportunity. And I just want to thank you so much, Jessie. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Terra. Thanks for doing this.